a lot of times directors will even reference, they're like, oh, save that take, we'll play that back to talent on set because that's what we need.
Hi, I'm Alyson. My company is Aly Casting, and we've been around for like 20. And H is comprised of 3 casting directors: myself, Aly Horn, Ross Bronson, and we do a lot of television. Ross and I's offices are similar in that with the commercial casting that happens in LA, our offices are among the kind of higher volume offices that we do a lot. My company also has a real people presence that we cast nationally, and we have a few clients that we cast for in New York as well.
And yeah, I started my company in 1996, and have probably cast over 4,000 commercials. Have done some movies and some TV, but we are primarily, both of our offices are commercial offices, and work out of the same studio now. My office has myself and Shane and Buffy in it, who's on maternity leave. But again, we, like she said, we both do a lot of volume, and we are both really excited about it being back. I think it's huge. I'll lead in, and I know you guys talked yesterday.
Or Stacey, do you want to ask us?
Sure. I mean, either way, we're just going to go with the flow here. I mean, you two were really among the first commercial casting directors who started bringing people in. And today I really wanted to get to understand the other side. So some people are really wanting there to be in person again, and some people aren't. And there's been some misinformation going around about why somebody would bring people back in. And so I really wanted to ask you guys, during the pandemic, what were some of the flaws of the self-tape that you thought hurt the actor during the pandemic?
I think that it kind of feeds into what I was going to say, and that is that the flaws of the self-tape are that you, as a casting director or a session director, don't have the opportunity to redirect and add the nuances that you want, because our job is comprised of reading the treatments and talking to the directors and talking to the ad agency, and we often have a history with the directors that we are working with, and one person's idea of subtle, let's say, is very different from another, and so we take that all into account. And even though a self-tape audition, you have time to do it over and over again, and which can be good and bad, because you could get in your head about it, or you could really perfect it and make it, right. And we both, all our offices, try to give as much information as possible when we were doing the self-tapes. But I think that the collaboration that you get with an actor being in studio is unlike anything else. And now, honestly, since we can do it in groups, we can see couples, we can have chemistry, and we can see moms and kids again together. It really, honestly, there's no substitute for it in my mind. I think that it helps the actor. I think it helps us. I think it helps us give a better product.
Yeah. In terms of self-tapes, I think that, listen, I think that self-tapes will still have a purpose. Agreed. And I think there's definitely still auditions that they really suit themselves for.
Yesterday, you actually said it just added another tool to your toolbox.
Absolutely.
I
think that there will be, I think that the way I see it and the way I'm casting, and I know the way Ross is, all my casting, all my jobs now are a combination of self-tape and in-person. And it really depends on the role and how the actor is best served. I mean, definitely, I think that when there's a whole family and we want real families, or a 3-year-old or a toddler or something, there's a lot of things where we don't need somebody to come into the studio.
I'm not going to make a mom with a 3-month-old come into the studio where the audition is, hey, what's their nap time? And then they leave and drive back to.
Right. Or if there's a super simple action that can be achieved very simply over a self-tape, Absolutely. We're not going to have, here's a way that I think I can frame this for actors as well, is if you put yourself in the casting director's position, you know, also a drawback to actors of the self-tape, you don't know whether a casting director could be giving out a self-tape notice to 300 actors and presenting 50 of them, right?
Right.
If I'm calling somebody into a studio, it's now on the casting director to make sure that those people that are coming into the studio, that is my time, that is studio space, or that's a product that I look for how that actor is coming across. So you better bet that I'm going to be doing everything in my power that actor is presented all to my clients. Self-tapes, you know, it's a lot more ambiguous in terms of how much you can send out, which might be good because then, you know, you get to know a lot of other actors, but I can guarantee you, you're not sending 200 auditions to your clients. So it's like, we're going to be judicious about what roles would work for a self-tape and what are the roles that I absolutely can't use a self-tape because I need to use that very precious studio time.
And the schedules are
for
the schedules are much more hand-picked, I would say, to come into the studio because we have 50 slots, let's say, as opposed to 150.
Okay, so we just got a comment, and I wanted to address this because it goes along with something Aly and I spoke about yesterday. But can you raise your heads up a little bit?
Yes, hold on.
Because I know that when I crop this, it's going to be like your foreheads.
I know. I tried there.
Munchkin. All right.
Is that better?
So somebody just said I book rooms, not bedrooms. And one of the things you said to me yesterday, Aly, was directors were having an issue because can you talk about people acting in their bedrooms where they're comfortable versus people actually coming in the room or getting on set and not being able to do what they did on the self-tape?
Right.
This was especially with non-union talent and younger talent. You know, talent that's a little bit greener in their careers, which is fine. We all started someplace. But that actors who are really used to auditioning at home and having a very, you know, being in a space where you're super comfortable, whatever, come to set, and all of a sudden there's just an energy shift. Now, obviously, a casting studio isn't a set, but I mean, we're actors, or every actor knows your energy changes when you walk into a casting facility. And when you go into a room and there's somebody else there, there's what happens to you mentally, what happens to you. And so I had many directors who do a lot of non-union work be like, man, we got to set and certain actors just kind of fell apart because they are already green and were used to, you know, they didn't have that extra step of the audition process. And the director didn't have that extra kind of step of them giving direction face to face. I mean, listen, there is a disconnect. Some directors are fine with this. Other directors aren't.
I would say most of mine want to be back.
Yeah.
Now, we were doing a callback and it was Zoom. And again, that's the thing we didn't talk about. There's self-tapes. There's also the Zoom and all the other, you know, ways to Skype and stuff. And again, you are on a slow schedule because you're doing them one at a time. But again, there's no chemistry and you're still not able to really give the direction. Something that Aly and I were talking about, one of your things you sent us, Stace, was having help actors to come in person. Like, there's an audition that she did the other day. There's an audition I'm doing today that requires a lot of camera movement. So to have the actor walk into the room or walk into the scene and then, you know, stub his toe, right, and fall and pretend to be like, oh.
Yeah, and then in the scene,
and then you want to zoom in and get his close reaction. And it's like, you at home on Zoom or self-tape really can't do that. And so it helps the director see you in this role in the right way. I mean, listen, we're not shooting a commercial, but we have a lot more ability in here to make the actor look good,
and which allows the actor to give the kind of performance that the director wants when the camera is coming in and you're giving a really subtle reaction, which we can do much better in a casting room than you can at home. And I think that that's also where because the pandemic has changed things, and because casting is going to be, you know, including all of these ways of auditioning talent, but SAG also getting involved as well, as like, what can we ask of actors to do at home? And some of that, some casting directors have been asking way too much of actors to do at home. So
there's definitely going to be a great YouTube blooper reel of self-tapes.
Yeah, I mean, some of it just is way too much, but there's a lot of instances where if a casting director is calling you into a studio, another one is, Ross mentioned just now that we can see actors unmasked together, which is huge in the chemistry. There's also, like, if you think of spots or campaigns where the talent is working with a known spokesperson or with a celebrity, even though maybe in the spot you don't see the talent doing a bunch of improv or whatever with this known celebrity, but our directive is, hey, we need actors that on set are going to be able to spar with the celebrity, because that makes them happier on set. It's funnier. They're vibing. They want to know that they have an actor that can give like an improv performance with, let's say, Amy Poehler, who would do Xfinity with, right? So I need somebody in my session, not at home, playing against one of my session directors or a reader who I hire for the day for their improv skill to go against the actor. Now, on those sessions, I will give the actor, if they want to Zoom, they can. On those where I'm looking for really high-level improv talent, 95% of those talent want to be in the room, because they know that for comedic improv stuff, it's that magic in the room. When you are in a room with the person and you're connecting and looking at a person, that disconnect over the camera, it just, you can't substitute that. And so the only actors
you can't get it on self-tapes, and on Zoom you really can't get it either because of the delay. It happens in person.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, and again, we do offer actors the opportunity to do that. A lot of actors, when we offer them the chance to come in, the only time they'll Zoom is if they're on set.
And honestly, we've seen people, we hear people scream and yell from the lobby because they're so excited. And when I put this on my Instagram and Facebook, the comments that I received was like, thank God, like, yay, hooray for in person. Like, actors want to be back in here. I understand there's reasons for self-tapes for certain roles. There's reasons for Zoom if it's someone in New York or had a first call and then it's not here, or someone on set. And we will always offer that, right? It's a great new tool. But again, coming in here, on Monday, I'm scheduling groups of 4 people at a time at a barbecue, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, and you can zoom in on people's faces and get reaction.
Okay. So a lot of the comments that we're getting, because I get them too, I want to be in Zoom. A lot of people are saying, I used to book all the time. Now that there's self-tapes, I'm not booking. What would you say to the people? What happened during the pandemic is a lot of people decided, now that I don't have to work, I can go after my dream. I can become an actor, right? And all they've ever known is self-tape. So they don't know the benefits of coming in the room. And now that the pandemic is over and they have to go back to work, there was something said about the fact that in-person is not inclusive, that there are people that can't be an actor because they have to go back to work. And I just wanted to sort of touch on that, about how do you guys have any thoughts about that, or any comments about that?
Yeah, you said you were me. You
Huh?
said you wanted it?
I'll do.
Oh, you said you wanted it.
I'll start.
No, go ahead.
I'll start.
You guys are so cute.
I think it's an interesting to bring inclusivity up in terms of being able to get to auditions. I don't think that's the issue at all. We assume that if somebody is, first of all, with all of the people that we have submitted for jobs, just to get the audition, you already have an agent and whatnot. So we assume that there's a certain amount of seriousness with which you're coming to this. I also think that it's a matter of, if a casting, kind of what we've said, if a casting director is asking you to come into the studio, there's a reason for it. And I think that, I guess I don't understand. It's like, if you can't come to an audition, I don't know how
I
then
think
can I
you're-
know that you would be able to come to set
Yeah.
or come to a wardrobe or go to your COVID. There's a lot of things that are requirements for actors to do when you book work.
Yeah. It's people are forgetting that. Sorry, Ross, go ahead. Audio is getting funky on your end. We aren't hearing you.
Is that better?
That's better.
Maybe it's
Take
because
that.
it's
Maybe
sitting
that.
on a napkin. Because
We're very high tech.
we're very vain and we're trying to not be. I'll just
Shoot
hold
at our
it.
necks. There
I'll
you
just hold it. How's that? It's going to be nauseating. Sit forward because now you look like a
go. Now I really
you look like a
much
miniature person. Yeah. Okay.
miniature person.
So sorry if it's dizzying to everyone. So what was I saying? Oh,
Well-
it's a crazy business, and you get requests for your auditions usually, the day before, and so I feel like us both being actors, you being an actress,
Have you?
or having been one, you need a job that provides you with the flexibility. We will give you time frames. We want you guys to do well because it makes us look good. We want to give a good tape. We don't want to. I used to work for a casting director and she was like, oh, you only need one, like when things were going really bad with feedback. And I'm like, is that really the way to approach a good business? Like, don't you want at the end of the casting, the callback to the director is like, wow, we've got so many amazing choices. This is like crazy. They have a hard time picking. That's what we want. So we'll give you time frames. We'll let you have the opportunity to come in. And
Don't offer the time frames so much. Agents hate it when actors don't prioritize the auditions.
Of course, and I get that. It's not. Listen, if someone's asking for one every single audition, we know we have a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's exclusionary. I think that and that's not really for us to say. We're doing our job. And your guys' job as an actor is to come in and audition.
Right. And our
I
job
think what's happening is that something happened with these self-tapes and actors thought, oh, I can go back and live in North Carolina and I can still audition in LA because of these self-tapes. And as they're being slowly, phased out for certain projects, people are getting upset. And what they don't remember is that this is a profession and you have to be present and you have to get a friendly job that lets you audition. You know what I mean?
Totally. And also, the thing is
Someone actually just said, I'm a North Carolina actor. Did you see that? And
I saw that, which is why
I
said
love
North
the
Carolina.
Zoom. And listen, I get that. We've had a couple actors we've called in, and I know them personally, and they've sent me an email saying, dude, I'm back in Illinois. My agent doesn't know. Is there any way that I can Zoom in? It's actually an AKA client, to be honest. But anyway, we let them Zoom in. But those days are going away where you don't have to be in New York or LA.
They're
or Chicago.
rapidly going away because now that we're kind of, can we say this out loud, kind of coming towards the end
We're
of
coming
it?
back.
Yeah, then production schedules are starting to come back to the before times where things are much more condensed. And so we're pushing things up to the COVID test and so the window of time for you to, if there were, was a casting where you were allowed to Zoom all the way up until the callback process, which that's happening now. You're going to start in the next month. That's going to really stop because as directors start to talk to each other and they're like, wait a second, actors are in the room together. And again, some directors might not want to, they might want to be sitting there, but they're going to want actors in the room together, acting against each other. Also, because think of how we've been auditioning people. If we saw a family of 4 and it's over Zoom, you're seeing one person at a time. Callback days would be 4 days at a time, as opposed to 4 people in a room saying how much they like the pizza. You know what I mean? So everybody's time has been, and that's why timelines got stretched out in a way that now are being condensed. And so if you're in North Carolina and wardrobe is tomorrow and callbacks are yesterday, it's like, and then if you haven't made everybody aware of that fact, and we assumed that you were Zooming from Burbank, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people. So those are things that it's like, yeah, you might have won the audition, but then you may end up burning a bunch of bridges.
And listen, I think that some casting directors have gotten, used to it also. Like, hey, this is easy. I can work from home and this is great. But more and more directors want to see people together, and they expect it now.
Of course.
And even if they're, like Aly said, even if the director is still on Zoom, they want you guys here improvising off each other.
Being actors, reacting.
Yeah. So that's so good.
No. Oh, go ahead.
You may have already answered this, but first of all, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second. What would you say to the people who say all first calls, there's no reason why a first call can't be on tape? What would you say to that?
I would disagree, because I think for the exact reason of bringing two people in and having them play off each other and being able to collaborate with us and get more precise, detailed direction. Listen, if we give a piece of paper for a self-tape or Zoom or whatever, or if we give even a video instruction, it's still not the same as being in the room. Us and our session directors think of a bazillion different choices through the course of the day. The last thing we want to do is send out a homogeneous tape. So to have the ability to change things as it goes.
I think a blanket statement like that is very much, then you're not working in a market like Los Angeles, where it's like, to say that all first calls,
right.
It's like, just like we've talked about the differences in what the roles might be, to have a blanket statement that there's no reason for a first call to be in the studio. No, there's a huge
if you're in a small market,
depending on the role.
If someone's casting a movie in a small market or
right, and you have
local TV commercial and you've got a 4-hour drive for them,
absolutely,
I get it. But people who are in LA and New York and Chicago and Atlanta are here because they want to practice their craft and they want to act, and we're giving them the chance to come do it in person. Listen, nobody wants to improv off of me in a session, but like, we've got great people who do it and who bring it out, and so we get 100 different takes during the day.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder, can you give us a bit of the feedback that you've gotten now that you are sending in tapes from in studio, as opposed to the tapes that you were having to send them before, the self tapes? Have you heard feedback from ad agencies and from directors, like a sigh of relief, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
Yes.
like a whole new world. Like, yeah, it's just, we were doing a car campaign that for so long we were having to see the one person and then the other, and then we got to call the husband and wife roles in together to act off each other and be sitting next to each other and having little moments, and the camera could press in on them and they could have like their little bit. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'll say,
Should we do the
bad
audition
for,
now?
yeah, bad for my business model, because I made a lot less money, because it's like they find the roles really a lot faster, because the actors actually have the opportunity to do the scene in a way. This is the thing, in a casting studio, actors have the opportunity to do the scene much more like it's going to be shot. Obviously, like Ross said, we're not shooting the commercial, but the way that the camera moves, some of the things that you're doing really help. Also, I think that, in the before times, a lot of times when you get on a commercial set, the director isn't, for a lot of the roles, there's not time to give a lot of direction. And a lot of times what was found at callbacks is really what the director and agency are expecting to happen on set. And so that's also, that time in studio is really, really valuable, because a lot of times directors will even reference, they're like, oh, save that take, we'll play that back to talent on set because that's what we need.
Yeah, some directors want they want the callback tape, so that they can see their actor and go, oh yeah, here it is.
Yeah, just tell them to do that kind of action.
Do you remember, it was funny because SAG we pressured them so hard they finally said, okay, you can do it together. It was in the middle of the day, and I was doing a Chevy audition, and I went from one person at a time to two people at a time, and the director called me that night. He's like, what happened? Like, how'd you do that? What happened? And I was like, oh yeah, we got permission. And we had another director who was at the Sunset Marquee doing a callback, and he was watching it, and he was like, wait, are those people in the studio? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, pause, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And like they want, and he got in his car and drove down. Like they want to be here. Also for them, I think that the directors, even the ones who still want to be on Zoom, are going to be coming back in the studio very soon, because you get a much better representation of what you're about to hire. Yeah.
And then so we just got a question. Would you say some casting directors will prefer self-tape to avoid the cost of leasing a space?
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I think some casting directors have been doing that, but they may not have been saving their clients any money.
Yeah. And listen, here's the thing about all of that. Yes, I absolutely think so. But I think that, you know, the business model of casting directors, it's the product that we have to give is the, you know, the links that we send out. So if casting directors are making creative choices based on, I'm going to kind of cut the studio out and I'm going to do self-tapes, first off, you're not going to be able to do that. Or if you try to pull that with your clients on, you know, scenes where you needed to have two actors in a studio acting together, you're going to have a real rough time in a couple of months justifying that to agencies and directors who've been like, why did we see all these people one at a time working off their roommate or working off of a Zoom camera operator? Like, that's just going to be hard to justify why you're choosing to run sessions that way. So it's like, I personally am like, okay, you casting directors, do it that way, because it's not I don't think that that's a good way. So my business model is to show actors off in the best way possible, because then I'm known as a casting director who shows really good talent and has really strong audition tapes. So, but yes, I do think that's been happening. And I think that it's going to be really interesting soon, because as actors have probably noticed, a lot of casting facilities have closed, mine included. I didn't renew my lease during the pandemic.
6 closed during the pandemic. So there's very little space left. And people, you know, we now 200 South, which is the biggest place in town, has a lot of outside casting directors, meaning they weren't housed here originally, doing callbacks here now, because that's at minimum they want their callbacks here. Yeah,
so it will be interesting to see how I'm fascinated to see how that shakes out with casting directors who've been doing that. Again, there are a lot of, and I don't mean to diss non-union, because there's certainly things, but there are a lot of non-union projects that, yes, you can have somebody at their home, you know, on their couch being like, you know, an interview and a personality thing. And it's like, yeah, of course, do a self-tape, knock yourself out.
Yeah. I'm also loving just all the comments that I'm trying to track and listen and answer, but like the comments are amazing about like coming in here and how good it feels, and like, you know, yay back in person, and just on and on and on and on. It's just it's great to read all these. Yeah. Anyway.
I think that one of the things that people who started, you know, during the pandemic, during self-tape, they don't understand how special it is to actually come in and interact and see your friends. And, you know, you learn so much from your other actors. And then you also learn from getting direction from people who really know what they're doing. And so it really is something that auditions can elevate you as an actor.
Absolutely. My gosh. I mean, besides the screaming and excitement of people seeing each other that they haven't in 2 years, when you go in the room and you're, again, working off someone who is a fellow actor who's going to bring you stuff to work with, it elevates your performance immensely.
And we do have the luxury, and this is honestly, I got really, depressed during the pandemic, but also one of the reasons for my depression is one of the things that I love most about my job is in the auditions, you know, we're not shooting the commercial. And so we can do moments and we can have scenes that last longer, that play out differently, right? And it's really fun to see that creation, you know, either with our camera operators, session directors, or with the other actors. And the absence of that during the pandemic, it's like a lot of the life went out of the audition process, because we say this in our classes a lot, you know, the end product of what you see in a television commercial, that has been frame fucked forever by clients and whatever. And so people will look at sometimes stuff that they saw on television and be like, well, anybody could do that. But the audition that got them the role was usually some really beautiful or funny or
Yep.
true or really exciting acting. And so that's what's fun about our jobs, to see that on the audition tapes and to talk about it. Even when actors are not booking the job, our offices are talking about it, and we're calling that actor in
Yep.
for other roles, for stuff that the actor might walk away being like, oh man, I didn't even get a call back. But then you get 10 more auditions from my office because we all were like, oh my God, play that again. Oh my gosh, did you see that
Yeah.
little moment? Like
They were
that?
totally
it's
wrong for
exciting.
that, but guess what? We're bringing it back so many times
Yeah.
for something else. And
I
that's the
tell
dialogue.
people, you think that you're only in the room with a session director, you know, the camera operator, but Aly has a TV in the back and she's watching every single audition.
Yeah.
We all do.
You would
We all
run
do.
down, if you saw somebody good, you would run down and redirect someone because
We
you
do.
want it.
We
Yeah.
literally do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you're very involved and you can't do that from a self-tape. And then I also just wanted to address the
Oh,
fact
and
that
we also, sorry, Stacey, on that note, but pause what you're going to say. We'll also get feedback from clients and directors in the middle of the day. That then
Oh,
we
yeah.
change. Do you know what I mean? And trying to, after you've gotten all the self tapes in, then you're just like, well,
Yeah, no, it's like,
yes, that's all going to be wrong. Sorry,
hey,
everybody.
on second thought, you know, maybe we should have them try that alt line. So could you, everyone this afternoon, have them do that? And you're like, okay.
No, yeah. But anyway,
So-
sorry, what were you going to ask?
I was just going to say that I know that, you know, I mean, I've known you guys both for over 20 years now. And, you know, I started as an actor and I've been into both of you. And you always were very specific in the room. You had the scene set up. And so it was very uniform for the director. And I think that's one of the reasons that being in person is good, because the actor actually stands out when everyone is coming in and doing the same action against the same background with the same props. And the people who are saying, I used to book in the room and now I don't book, it's because the self-tapes are a little frenetic, you know, watching different backgrounds. And is that correct? Or
I think that, yes, I think that there's a couple things going on with that. I think that, you know, we're all so visually influenced, right? And so people's self-tapes, people are attracted much more by the visuals in people's self-tapes. And some people have maybe an aesthetic that when they're at home, or, you know, that is more interesting to the people watching in a way. I think that can be, it's just,
You
it's
saying
a
that
different,
could be a draw or a bad?
I think it can work both ways.
Yeah.
I think that it's,
But you know, when you and I were talking about like doing self-tape, and like if it requires like you're eating a bowl of cereal, you know, curled up on the couch, like if we're doing that here, like sure, if you're doing a self-tape, make sure you do that. But if you're doing it here, you better bet we're gonna have a little nook for you to sit in.
right.
And then I still think I go back to the fact that like the letting, you said something about letting the scene play out a little bit longer and stuff. Like when you do a self-tape, you're in the moment doing that self-tape and then you stop. As opposed to here, you can keep going and be in the scene until we say cut. And so there might be this great little moment that's coming that you wouldn't have done at home. Or we see it and we're like, oh shit, that's a great idea. On this take, do it like you haven't seen him yet, and it's the first time you've seen him. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, we can't tell you that on your redirects.
Totally. I mean, and that is,
at home.
That's the part of it, even though, you know, they're commercials, and I hate it when people dumb down commercials because it's still.
But the hardest part to do a commercial is booking it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's true. It's like, if you're going to cut out any of the creative process of the people directing you, and you do something, and just like Ross said, that it's like, oh, that's a good idea. I mean, the amount of times that session directors have come up with, that's why we do a couple of takes to show something totally different. Yeah. That gives them an idea that, you know. Even
if you nail it on the first take, like if we're like, okay, that was pretty much what I was expecting or what I wanted, then we're like, you know what, let's do something else. Let's make it bigger, even though it's not supposed to be, but then we can show them a range and we can try something different. It's just, it can't be replaced.
I don't think so.
No.
So off what you just said, it can't be replaced. There is something that has been said that that self-tapes are the wave of the future, and that in-person is the past and old school. Do you think that that is there? I mean, can you speak to that?
I can speak to it in Los Angeles, and I can speak to it in commercials. I can't speak to it in the theatrical world because I'm not a theatrical casting director.
I can speak to it in theatrical, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I know that when I'm telling a story in 30 seconds or 15 seconds, and there's certain things I need from different roles, yes, a self-tape is a great tool for some roles. It's a very bad medium for other roles, and it does not show the actor to an advantage for lots of different things. And so I don't think that to say that it's the wave of the future and you're being old school to like that's like saying like, well, if you like theater, I mean, theater's dead. It's like, yeah, I mean, we should never see anything live again because that's so old school. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's, to me, that kind of statement is akin to that. It's like,
again, like you said earlier, Stace, it's a tool in our shed that we can use when we need to. But having done this for as long as we've done it and worked with as many directors and products and agency, we kind of know what will work as a self-tape and what won't. I think it's completely wrong to say that that's not stepping into the future. The acting business is not about one person. It's about connection and emotion. And
I love that.
I also will say, if you want to talk about, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just saying that gave me goosebumps to say, you know, our business is about connection. You know, it's not about one person, it's about connection.
Totally. And there's also, you know, if we want to talk about inclusivity and about, you know, people who really have, there's older talent that has some difficulty with the technology. And so, you know, or just talent. I mean, I am older talent now. I am too.
Older. We all are.
There's still older talent. And so, you know, some people are really good at editing their takes or doing certain things. And honestly, when we were able to safely see people, there were so many actors who were like, it is so much faster for me to drive here in the studio than try to figure out how to do, like, the technology aspect of it was actually so daunting and so worrying to some segments of actors that it's like, that can also be a detriment. So, you know, people are skilled differently with all of this stuff. And I do think it's a shame if actors, I think acting should be based off, you know, jobs should be based off of acting. And when you're really good at manipulating the footage, which also actors can get really wrong as well by overproducing it and over this and that.
Gosh.
So like there's also a lot of pitfalls that actors,
I'm like, wow, I know this person thinks they have really crushed it with all of their this and that.
Chirons and all
like
their
30 seconds before you even get to your take, and I'm just like,
I think there's a lot of actors who are like, I can really. It's almost like
Show my skills.
getting some FaceTime with the casting director, and it's like a full credit roll before we see the 2-second take that we need.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so there's pitfalls as well, but yeah, to say that it's like that this is the wave of the future, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I love that I love that we have talent agencies here right now. I love that. We have a bunch of talent agencies watching, and BBR just said, good addition, bad substitute.
Yes. There you go.
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it.
We'll use it. We need it. And we will use it to be kind to actors. Like, you know, the actors make us look good. Like, we want you guys to succeed. And so if it works to do a self-tape, great. If we're, like Aly said earlier, if we're calling you into the studio, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want you here. Like, you know, this director who I'm doing this job for right now, some of these roles, if it was a different director, I probably could have done more self-tape. I ended up doing one role because he's so specific in his reactions and his feedback that there's no way that I could translate that to someone doing it at home.
I think I wanted to do this because I wanted people to see you, right? Clearly, you two are two of the hippest, coolest, most beautiful people I know. You're not old school, and you're two of the busiest working commercial casting directors in town. And I just wanted to get another perspective. You know, everybody has their own opinions. Everybody's opinions are valid, but it's important to say that they're opinions, not facts, you know, and clearly you guys have been doing this forever, and you're doing these things for the actor to help them. I guess, unless there's anything else you guys want to discuss, I wanted to just give you the floor to just say anything you wanted to say as an inspiration to the actors that are watching now.
Well, I would say, you know, I think other casting directors say this, but I wish that actors really understood how much, even though it doesn't seem like that, because casting directors, myself absolutely included, always seem very stressed out and whatever, but how much we want you to succeed and how much we want you to feel good about your audition, and how much we want you. Casting is never sitting back there being like, entertain me. It's never that. It's like, please be good, please be good, please be good, please, I want to like you. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to come in prepared, and I want you to be able to play and have that preparation where you're prepared enough, that you're confident enough, that you can be in the moment and make choices and have a collaboration with the people that I've set up to, you know, to run the audition and facilitate it, because it really is. It's the whole reason I started doing this, that it's like, when you see an actor make a moment that's funny or smart or true or interesting or different, it's just like, it's magic.
Yeah.
It's
and
magic.
again, it may not be right for this exact thing that we're doing, but it's such a pleasure to see, and that's how you stand out to us. And, you know, I would just say, as a thing to the actors watching, like, keep doing what you're doing, keep studying, keep the you know, keep your faith up, like, come in on the auditions, do your best job, pay attention to what we're giving you. Again, we want to give you everything possible to succeed, from scripts to notes to, you know, all of that stuff. And so, you know, I would say, people always talk about like casting and gifts, which I have a lot of ideas for, but but honestly, we need the actors. That we need you guys as much or more than you need us. So
you guys just made me cry. Like, I got tears.
That was the goal.
What?
That was my goal.
I love you both, and I just have so much respect. I'm so honored that you said yes to coming on here, and I just think you're both really amazing humans, and thank you for what you do for actors, and thank you for what you just said. And if anybody has any questions, I'll put up a question box and I'll send them to Aly and Ross, and I'll get their answers for you. And maybe we can do this again about something else.
That'd be fun.
We would love to.
Okay,
Now,
I'm going to save this and post it.
Salad.
And now I'm going to go start directing some actors.
Woo!
All right.
Yay! Love you both.
Thank you.